Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 68, and I am beyond excited to share with you an interview with one of possibly my favorite musician on this planet, John Mark McMillan, all about his new album, Peopled with Dreams, that comes out in 2 days' time, February 14th, Valentine's Day. So I'm actually right now in the midst of a comedy tour that I've been road managing. And so I got a couple of days at home. I've been all over Ontario, and then tomorrow I fly out to BC. So I'm kind of all over the place here. But I was really excited to get a little bit of time at home, hang out with my family, and edit this for you. John Mark's new album comes out in 2 days' time. You're gonna love it. I've listened to the singles. It's amazing. And we had a really fun conversation all about life and death and gods and the God who enters into our pain with us. So. And thank you so much for the feedback on the interview with Danielle Strickland from last week. That's amazing. If you are a human being, go and listen to that interview after you're done with this one. Cool? All right. Awesome. Here, let's do it. Again, thank you. I feel super, super pumped. My friends have been saying, oh, you're interviewing John Mark. That's super cool. How do you feel about it? And I'm like, I'm really nervous that I'm going to sit here and fanboy the entire time.
That's all right.
So these new singles that you've dropped are awesome. I am loving them.
Thank you.
I don't know if I have a favorite. They're all different, right? Like they all cover kind of a different spectrum.
Yep.
Are any of them like more indicative of what's on the album, or is it kind of like a mix?
It is a little bit of a mix. Yep. I don't know that one. I do think The Road, The Rocks, and the Weeds is more chill than pretty much everything else that's on the record. And so maybe I'll backtrack. I feel like Juggernaut is a little, and Bright Abyss are a little bit more of what's on the record.
Got it.
But honestly, it is a bit of a mix, and each song is fairly unique. Mm-hmm. It's a much more upbeat record. But there are still those sort of like moody singer-songwriter songs as well. It's just probably, the greater fraction of them are a little more upbeat,
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So I want to hear you talk all about it, but I'll tell you, for me, Juggernaut is like, it's rocking me right now. It's like life is an unstoppable force. Yeah. Like that's what's hitting me in the face. Like
totally.
The good, the bad, the ugly, it's not quitting. And
yeah.
And I don't know if we're just drinking from the same pond, but I feel like that's super relevant to my life at the present time. Like the good, the bad, and the ugly, the mysteries, the wonder, the great news, the really troubling news. But it's all part of this gift.
Yeah, totally.
Where's that come from?
Yeah, I think, I sort of had this little epiphany. I get seasonal allergies really bad. And for a singer and a songwriter, like to not be able to use your voice is insanely frustrating, And so I'm writing and I'm kind of excited about what I'm working on. And it was a couple, maybe last spring or the previous spring, I can't remember. It's in the last couple of years. The door was open and the birds were singing, and I was like, this is exciting. It's spring. And then I started to feel this thing come on me. And I was like, I just wish I could stop the spring. I wish I could stop the whole deal. Wintertime is awesome for me because I don't get allergies in the winter. In the spring and the fall, though, I get bad allergies, and even throughout the summer. So... yeah, but the spring especially, right? And I thought I would love to stop, and I realized like it's not going to stop. And for that, in that moment, I realized that wow, life is unstoppable. It's not always what I want it to be, but life itself seems to be unstoppable. And it's interesting. Like I'm not a scientist, so it's really just my personal perspective. But when you look at the universe as a whole, life seems less likely than not. Right.
Sure. Yeah. It seems pretty
it seems less likely than not. Yeah. But it's here, like it's actually happening, and it continues. We continue, and so to me, that sort of speaks to the testament of life itself. The fact that life is winning, Jurassic Park, life will find a way.
Yes.
And so this started to make me think that because and to me, like as a believer, say, yeah, life is winning. That's an easy thing to say because someone told me to say it because I read it in a book. But it's another thing to sit there and be like, wow, I actually think I might actually believe what I believe. Like maybe life is actually winning, and it's not just a thing to say to get me pumped, or not just a thing to use to talk about the afterlife. Maybe it is winning, And so that's kind of Juggernaut is all about, just that idea that maybe life is the unstoppable force, because, as a delving into existentialism and seeing the world, from a different point of view, as more complex point of view as I get older, like it's very tempting to see death as the final, it's sort of like everything seems to end there, and there are times in my life when it was a struggle to believe that there was anything more to it than just sort of this spark, and then we cascade off into the oblivion, and like, okay, I don't believe that because I'm a believer. At least I'm saying that. I'm telling that to myself. But then there are those moments where you're like, wait a second, this might be right. I don't know how it's right, and I might not be right in the way I'm right, but something in this is right, And so it's just one of those moments for me. And the Juggernaut is like, oh, life is maybe actually winning. Maybe life is conquering death. Maybe life is the thing at the end and not the oblivion, or maybe life is the oblivion, life is the thing that's all consuming. Or maybe we've just drawn these two different ideas that life and death are these two different things. Now, people may have a problem with that, and so spiritually speaking, that's a little bit difficult. But when you look at the world, it's sort of a life dies, it goes into the ground, it gives life to a new thing. The cow eats the grass, we eat the cow. What I'm saying? We plant the seeds that grow new grass. We die. We go. We fertilize the grass. The grass gets eaten by a wild boar. Someone kills the wild boar. They eat it. It's sort of like life just continues in this way, And if I understand Scripture correctly, it's sort of like the things we see speak of the things we don't see, right? The visible speaks of the invisible.
Yes.
And so it was like, that's not really hard for me to believe anymore. It's not hard, like it doesn't mean I'm right about everything, but it's sort of like, okay, cool. I can totally believe that life wins and that God is behind that, all because of allergies.
My allergies were so bad last May. I only really get them in May. I don't know exactly what it is that's flowering here in southern Ontario at that time period, but I feel you. I feel like death and oblivion are kind of like recurring words or themes in a bunch of your music.
Yeah.
I feel like I hear that line, oblivion especially, like at least once per album. I haven't actually done a recent listen to count that, but
I think I only used the word oblivion on this record.
Okay.
But I have used other words. Yeah. No. I think I was a weird kid. Like I remember, like I was the kid like on the grocery cart with my mom pushing around thinking like, there is definitely another kid on a grocery cart somewhere else in the universe doing this exact thing, and I remember thinking at the same time, like everything that could happen definitely has happened. The universe is so big that everything I think of has definitely happened somewhere or will happen or is happening, and then at the same time, I used to be that kid who's like, what happens when I die? I won't be able to take my toys with me. Will we be friends? Will I be able to think after I die? Like what happened? Like that's the kind of stuff that really messed with me as a kid. And, I don't know that that's like super entertaining. I've learned people would rather sing about relationships, which is not entirely unrelated if you really want to get down to it.
I agree.
But for me, like, there's a lot of oblivion in relationships too.
I went to see Paul Young. I went to hear Paul, Paul Young, author of the Shack Talk on Friday night, and he said, "I prefer being invited to speak at funerals rather than weddings because there's a lot more certainty at funerals." I was just like, "Oh snap!"
I know. Well, we think.
Well, yeah, that's a good question.
We do think, yeah, but. Yeah. So, I feel like I was that kid always thinking about the existential kind of things. And I didn't realize that was weird until I started making music about it. And people are like, what are you talking about? was like, well, you guys don't think about this? Like the only thing guaranteed in life is that you will die. Like that's the one guarantee. Maybe there will be a generation that doesn't die. Like maybe technology will get so far ahead of ourselves, but we're a long way from that.
Yes.
I don't even know if that's going to count as real life, as much as just sort of morph into like robots. And they're just going to take our information. I'm not convinced
Altered
that
carbon.
Information and life are the same thing.
That's good.
Right. But anyway, it's like the one thing in life that is for sure is that we're all going to die. And I don't know why most people don't think about it more. Like I think about it every day, and not in a morbid way. Just since I was a kid, I was like, that's a thing to think about because it's definitely going to happen. We're really good at avoiding the conversation. And we've gotten a little better at avoiding actually dying. You know, like people live longer now than they did 100 years ago. Yeah, but not much more, you know. And so, I guess people don't want to talk about that all the time, I've discovered. Or they want to talk about it in Christian circles in very certain terms. But they really still just want to avoid that conversation. I don't know why I've never been able to just totally avoid that conversation. It's always been part of my music. I think it's just part of me, you know. But see, I think
I like it.
Oh man, I mean, it's not morbid. It's sort of like, hey, look at your life. You're here now. Like that's great. And I think that's more of how the conversation is shifting for me. Instead of talking about dying all the time, well, let's talk about like how great it is to be alive right now. Or what the odds are against you being alive right now. Like the odds are way against you being alive at all. First of all, you look in outer space, you get a click away from the earth, you are gone. The universe is going to destroy you immediately. You just get one click away from earth. As far as we can tell, there's nowhere else in the universe like it. There probably is, but even if there is, it's really, really rare. So you probably can't go anywhere else. So in the entire universe, as big as the universe is, you can only be on this speck of dust. If you move even a hair away, you're gone. You're absolutely gone, right? But you're here. You happen to be in the only place in the universe where you could exist. You happen to be here. Your particles happen to have landed here, right? You happen to be here. So that's pretty amazing. Number two is most people who have ever lived are already dead.
Yes, right? Of course.
Are already dead, but you're not. You're alive. You know, it's like these two basic facts. No one wants to talk about these things, but they're like the two most incredible things that you could ever think about. You know, and this makes me so grateful. You know, is that like what you and I are doing right here is not happening anywhere else in the universe, regardless of what I thought about on the, you know, when my mom was pushing me on the buggy. I mean, I don't know. Some people have theories, you know, about like different Earths and that kind of thing. What do they call them?
Multiverse, all that kind of.
Multiverse.
Yeah.
There's some serious thinkers who believe that basically there's a limited number of ways things can happen, and so if the universe is infinite, then all of them will. But
Every choice even spawns then, another.
Yeah. Totally. Even then, like what you and I are doing is insanely rare, and what breaks my heart more than almost anything is that people will live their entire lives and not realize how rare that is, not realize how unbelievably privileged they are to exist at all, and how so many people take no advantage of being alive. They spend their entire lives wishing they were alive in a different way, or a little longer, or a little healthier, a little stronger, a little better looking, or with better looking people. You know, like they spend most of their lives like thinking about what they don't have when their bucket is insanely full. Yes. You know, and this isn't, you know, like, and I guess a lot of Christians get frustrated with this conversation. I guess it depends on the stream because they want to have the heaven conversation immediately, and that's fine. But, you know, and that's really up to Jesus. That's up to God, whatever that's going to be like. That part of it's not really up to me. But either way, once you leave, like, this is it. You get this experience like once.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
Like even the scripture of like life. Jesus came to give life and life more abundantly. I had always interpreted that. I'd never been taught that. I just read it and I believed it was about this life right now. That like it's allowed to be really full and really free and really like abundant. And a bunch of guys were like, oh no. That's like I remember on an internet forum like 12 years ago. People were like, no, that's definitely not what it means. But I was like, huh, really? Like that the only life Jesus came to give me is after I die? Okay.
Yeah, I
I
know
mean,
that's really confusing to me. Like that part of it's really confusing. And like when you read Jesus, like 80 or 90% of what he talks about is for right now.
mhm.
It's like he actually talks about heaven and the afterlife, like
Oh yeah,
almost just very, very little. And
very
we've
little.
created entire streams, entire theologies, entire movements based around the teeny little shard of what Jesus has to say about the afterlife, and I guess because, like if we focus on that, we don't have to focus on right now. But I've always interpreted as the more abundant life is realizing exactly how beautiful the life you live is right now,
Mm.
you know. Um, but and I mean, I'm counting on the afterlife, but I have zero control over what that's going to be like, you know.
Do you have a pet theory on what happens exactly at the moment of your death? Like, I chewed over this with a friend the other day, right? And it's like, okay, well, I think that the world that I've grown up in is like, oh yeah, you're whisked
Yep.
off to be with Jesus forever. But I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
find scant evidence. Well, I mean, Jesus says, okay, you'll be with me in paradise today, maybe, okay. But then there's that wacky story in Samuel about Saul going to see a medium and calling up Samuel from the grave, and it seems to
Mm-hmm.
be Samuel. It's like, where do you go with like what
Yeah.
happens immediately after?
I have like five. So I have 5 or 6
Let's do it.
thoughts about that. So they may be all wrong, and 90% of them may be heresy. So I'm just going to throw them out there. But they're things I do think about. So let me start by saying this. Like, I've decided I trust Jesus with my afterlife. And I feel like as a Christian, that's all. If you want to go by the most fundamentalist view of heaven and hell and the afterlife, all you really have to do is trust Jesus, And so I'm like, all right, I'm fine. I've got that covered. I'm trusting Jesus. Well, if everything else I believe is total, crap, like I'm trusting Jesus. And, so, I don't have to worry about that other stuff,
Yes.
But okay, with that being said, I have a bunch of different ideas. So here's one. One is that the consciousness is projected into your body the way information is projected into your phone, and so your body is like hardware, and somehow consciousness is like the app that's in the cloud that you tap into. And when your body dies, it's like your phone dying. It's like your consciousness is still somehow in the cloud, in another location. I mean, obviously these are really, really like primitive compared to whatever it really is. These are super primitive ideas in language. You can only compare
for sure.
No. Okay. So that's number one. Number two is that the thing that makes up you is in your DNA, right? And apparently every molecule of your body knows who you are, it's what you are, and you can clone you from. And apparently, I'm guessing maybe that'd be another person. I don't know that your consciousness is as far as your memory and that type of thing, but maybe consciousness and memory and who you are and what you know and remember are different things. They may not be the same thing. I don't know. Like one is sort of your like operating system. That's maybe who you are. And then you have all this memory, and it's like your phone dies and you lose everything that's on your phone, but the operating system, you upload it again. I don't know. But maybe like, and I'm not a scientist, so people may like totally just be like, I don't know what you're talking about. But I could see this, like, everyone dies. It talks about the resurrection, and I see more scriptures about the resurrection and sleeping and being resurrected than like you die and your conscious is in like a throne room, this medieval throne room. Because I guess God decided medieval imagery was like where he wanted to lock in. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Exactly. Things were okay. Things were okay. Then suddenly things are perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So maybe, what if we die and then in a million years, artificial intelligence wants to know what we're like. And so artificial intelligence does like Jurassic Park vibes and digs us up and rediscovers the consciousness of all mankind through the DNA that they find, and they resurrect every person scientifically, and then we live forever.
That would be an awesome film, like a straight up disaster film, right? Like, oh, let's raise the humans back. Oh, but we're missing some of their DNA. We'll mix in a little bit of this, like we did with the frogs, and all of a sudden we created a monster.
Yeah. And if Jesus lives in our hearts, maybe the resurrection of all people, the culmination is like, the perfect culmination of all people are made in the image of God, and maybe sort of God is manifest once again through people, through technology, I love how people like to take technology and be like, that's not from God.
Right,
Technology
right.
Isn't from God. Oh, but the Bible was written with technology, like pen and pencil is technology. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Language is technology because it's a constructed thing, And so maybe God uses AI to resurrect all of mankind, and so that would be sort of a sci-fi universalist idea of what happens. I'm sure all my ideas are so incredibly wrong, but they're really fascinating to think about.
Well, Arthur C. Clarke says, right, like that if you do try to predict the future, then you're gonna end up between two impossible positions. One, like
Yeah.
if you're too conservative, like basically the future is so different from what any of us can conceive of. We're always going to be too conservative. On the other hand, if we do predict wildly, everybody will simply say that's insane. So
exactly,
the futurist never wins. How much more so the death philosopher futurist?
I know, exactly. I'm screwed both ways. I'm done. Totally. My other idea is oh man, what was my other idea is, what if God has fragmented his consciousness and placed it in all people, and individually we're experiencing the world as a fraction of God, as a piece of God. When we die, our experiences go back into God, and God has fully experienced the world through every single individual. And that sounds crazy, but I've always wondered, if God's all powerful, he's got to feel all the feelings of everyone who ever felt, so he's got all the power, but also he takes on all the pain.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a very Jesus-like picture of God taking on all the pain, So obviously I can't be totally right just because my language and experience is not anywhere close. But that's an interesting idea for me. I really like the idea of all people being some sort of, and then heaven and hell would be, I give up so much of the God part of me that there's no God left in me. And I'm essentially dead at that point because I've given up everything that's good and wonderful. And I'm only the phone, all the information, the operating system is gone. I'm just the shadow of who, I'm just the leaky shadow, and I've let all the God in me go. And that somehow found its way back to God. But what's left is, maybe that's it. And then the heaven side is I've learned to love what's good, and then I move on to be back in the consciousness of God, and we all get to think together. I don't know.
That's fun.
It's fun to think about.
I love that idea.
Yeah. I know. I'm glad I get to talk to you about this, because so many people, like, if I start talking this way, they're like, whoa, that's making me uncomfortable. I'm like, hey, we're just theorizing here. I'm like, I'm not writing theology.
No, I love it. I love it. I'm super glad. I was chatting about this whole death thing with a buddy of mine just the other day, and then our Connect group all turned up, and one of them is a girl who's there brand new for the first time, and we're deep in this discussion on death and what's going on, and she's kind of sitting there a little bit like, whoa, where did I come? And I'm like, don't worry, we don't do this all the time. But that last theory is fun. There's that Henry Nouwen, well, they're all fun. There's that Nouwen quote about how the only authority God claims for himself is the authority of compassion. Which is basically like, I get the right to say that everything that happens hurts me. And that is the only authority that God like arbitrarily claims. And something about that is devastating and beautiful. And honestly, that's what I'm hearing in the Rock the Roads and the Weeds. I'm driving to church Sunday night, and I'm crying, man. I'm sitting there and I'm just like, the God who pours himself out and then invites us to do likewise. Yeah. Totally. Like, oh, yes.
Well, there is. I want to talk about that song for sure, but just to let you know when the record comes out, the last song is called Ancient and Brave, and it's about that specifically, about God experiencing the pain of all mankind. But it does. The Road, the Rocks, and Weeds does hint to that. It does hint to that for sure. And I think I was thinking about this idea that a lot of things happen in Jesus, and you see these benchmarks throughout history, throughout civilization. And, I've heard there are other, very few, but there are other gods who have died and were sacrificed. I think there's a Norse god who actually died on a tree, But generally speaking, though, gods are never like that.
Right.
Up until Jesus, they're all otherworldly, untouchable. To please them, you have to sacrifice, you have to give. It would be very common in the ancient world, as you know, to sacrifice a child if things got bad enough.
Yeah.
To sacrifice, you sacrifice food, you sacrifice animals, you sacrifice things that mean something to you. For the gods, crops are failing. The rain is bad. There's another civilization or another village who's rising up against you, who's more powerful. You need to get in touch with the gods. You would give something. And so this was the thought. This was the concept of the gods from way back, as far as I can tell. And then Jesus comes, and then this God sacrifices to you. It's sort of like a entire role reversal.
Yes.
An entire role reversal. Like in the Bible, for sure, with the people of God, for sure. But civilization as a whole, and their very way of thinking about God and the gods and the powers that are outside of us, all of a sudden, this God shares in the issues of mankind. The total role reversal. He sacrifices to you, and he says, not that he says we are the gods, but he says, here, your future is up to you. All of a sudden, God is saying, you look to me for your future, and all of a sudden I'm telling you that your future, maybe not perfectly so, but your future is in the power of your hands. I'm handing power, or establishing, or even just revealing that, like, all along your future has been somewhat in your hands.
Oh man, I don't even want to take a break from this podcast, but I do just quickly want to say thank you to my Patreon supporters who make this show possible. Thank you to every one of you who gives every month. Thank you as well to everyone who prays for me and who shares content on social media. As I mentioned, I'm on this comedy tour, and just the other night I bumped into a fan. She came up, and in the comedy tour I'm producing, I'm not in a public sphere, but somebody recognized me and they came up and said hi, and it was awesome. And so thank you, Lindy, for coming and saying hi. That was really special for me. Anyway, make sure you go and buy or listen or stream to John Mark McMillan's brand new album. Comes out in a couple of days. The singles are already out right now. You can also he often puts out stuff on vinyl, so you can get special edition stuff. Go and do that. And if you'd like to join me on the work that I'm doing here on this show, you can go to patreon.com/Jonathan Puddle and support me for as little as $3 a month. Thank you so much. Oh, Genesis
if you're willing
1.
to take on the responsibility.
Let us make mankind in our image.
To
be like us.
Exactly.
It's like as if in our image wasn't clear enough. He's like, let's create mankind in our image, but only ever to feel like dirty slaves. No, to be like us.
Yes. Well, I like what are you familiar with Jordan B. Peterson?
Yes, controversially, indeed I am.
Well, I like what he said about the let us make man in our image, and the whole idea is that man is the only animal, mankind, women more so than men probably. They're actually probably better at this, but that we're the only animal that can perceive the future, or we know, like, I can sacrifice now for tomorrow.
Sure.
As the squirrel buries the nut because he's a squirrel, and he goes, but he doesn't think like, I'm going to bury this nut because I'm going to have the most nuts of anyone in the come winter time. It's just what the squirrel does. Is we actually can think like, I can sacrifice today and my next year, next 10 years, the future, and this is, in a sense, this is kind of how sin entered the world, because once you realize that there is a future, that a future is a thing, then you realize that, your actions matter. What you do now is in the future, and you cannot unlearn. You cannot unknow, because as children, when you don't understand that there's a future, like sin isn't a thing necessarily. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that they avoid I mean, if they walk into traffic and get hit by a car, they get hit by a car, but it's not on them. It's on the parents, right? They still suffer the
consequences are real, but
the consequences, but they're, but still it's, but once you realize, oh, action A leads here, action B leads here, there's no unknowing that. And that's in a sense where sin enters the world, because you realize that you have choices, and you have good choices and better choices, and you have bad choices and worse choices, and I enjoy that take a little bit, at least practically speaking. I kind of enjoy that take on being made in the image of God. God realizes there is a future, and if I do something, it has a consequence. I create something, I speak, and light is created, and so we as humans, we have similar characteristics. We speak, we say things, and things happen. We're talking now, and people are going to hear it. Like we have enough conversations, and maybe a lot of people will hear it, and you can sell products like, Joe Rogan or something. I don't know, but yes, whatever. Not
one day
to do that. But there is power in speech. We say things, people hear it. If we say it the right way, long enough of the right people hear it, and we have influence. And so other animals don't have that. I don't think. Maybe I just bunny trailed.
No, I love it.
But.
Okay, so Greek gods and all these other mythologies, and Jesus totally turns it around. So Mercury and Lightning, that album had a ton of talk about Greek and Roman gods in it.
It did.
I loved it. I mean, to me, that's power, purpose, destiny, all that wrestling with, the American dream, which I don't know that you were talking about Americana so much as just dreams in general, but I could be wrong. I love that in The Road, the Rocks, and the Weeds. Like Aphrodite not weeping, Zeus not suffering.
Well, I was going to call it Goodbye Olympus, and I actually wish I had, because I think that's a little bit easier to say. Since I put it up, it is all right, guys, tonight, song number 4, The Road, the Rocks, and the Weeds. It doesn't even fit on the metadata, it's a mouthful. But I didn't want, the reason I didn't call it Goodbye Olympus was because I didn't want people to feel like I was doing more of the same. But looking back, that actually would have been nice, because it's sort of waving goodbye to that last season. So there's really no mention of Greek gods or goddesses or any on the new record other than that one, but that's how the song was written. Goodbye Olympus was sort of the initial idea. It's sort of Jesus saying goodbye. All of the gods have chosen to live above the mankind. They've chosen to live, but our God chose to live beside us, the Emmanuel, the God with us, the God who bleeds, the God who hurts, the God who feels, the God who is beside us, and there's this whole idea of the God the Father being the God outside of us, Jesus being the God beside us, and then the Holy Spirit being the God inside of us. It's the way we relate to the world. We relate to God, the Creator, the outside. He's kind of scary, but he's there. We like him because he's awesome. He's the powerful one. Jesus is the God beside us. He's the God who walked with us, who was born like us, who died. Hopefully not the way we're going to die, but died the way it's possible that we would, and so he's the one beside us. He's also the one that says, as you've done it to the least of these, you've done unto me, so then the Holy Spirit is the God inside of us. But this whole idea is that Jesus is the one waving goodbye to the other gods. One of the gods decided, I'm going to suffer my fate with the people.
Yes.
On the road, in the rocks, in the weeds. I'm going to spill myself out on all the worst places. And that's the beautiful thing about Jesus. Like, I love that parable, the idea that the word, Francis Capon says that the word is the heart of God, is Jesus himself, not the scripture, but it's the word of God himself. And so, because John 1 in the beginning was the word was with God. It's Jesus. So Jesus is the one. He is the seed. And I thought it's really beautiful and kind of heartbreaking that he would allow himself to be spread out. He could have just picked the good soil. That's what we do. He's like, I'm not going to pour my life into the bad soil. I'm going to pour in the good soil. If you're an investor, it's what you do. You learn where the good soil is. You invest there. But Jesus spread himself out on the good soil and the bad soil. And I thought that's more beautiful, even than the fact that there is a good soil, but the fact that Jesus would allow himself to be spread out everywhere. I love it.
Did you read American Gods?
I haven't, but I need to, though.
There's this he doesn't dig into it. This is not really a spoiler. He doesn't dig into it deep, but there's this throwaway comment where a bunch of the gods are discussing Jesus, and they all kind of hate him because he's so selfless. And it's just kind of like this throwaway. It's barely a theme, but it makes me laugh.
I love it.
Were you a fan of Project 86?
I remember the name Project 86, but I don't remember the music. Or are you talking about the band, or is it?
The band. Yeah, the band.
Yeah. I do remember them, but I don't remember the music. I feel like I had a friend who had a Project 86 hoodie.
Yeah,
and that's where I remember seeing it.
They were old, originally like Tooth and Nail records, like hard rock from sort of like the late '90s. But they had this album, Truthless Heroes, which was this major concept album, and it was like they'd sold out to a bigger label, and then their next album starts off with the screamed chorus, "We don't need no truthless heroes," and it was called "Songs to Burn Your Bridges By," and so I always appreciated that very intentional callback from one album to the next. I feel like from each of your albums, I was looking through and I was listening through in my mind as I was preparing for the interview. I pulled up your discography and I was going through each one, and I wasn't listening to the music with my ears, but in my head I could hear all the major tracks playing, the themes, and was revisiting all of my deep, like, emotional moments with your music over the years. From album to album to album, it takes me back. I mean, obviously all music does this. It takes you back to that spot. I remember where I was when I was listening to that song and broke down in tears.
Oh, wow.
There's this visceral grittiness, I feel like, from all of your music, that always feels counterweighted by hope, by life, and obviously then that plays out in different kind of genre formats, album by album. I'm interested by what you said, that this album is kind of more maybe on the nose positive.
Yeah, I wouldn't say on the nose positive as much as it is a celebration. Okay. It's not a denial kind of thing, but it also is. It's like we have these moments, and it's almost like the hard things we go through in life almost demand that we enjoy the good parts of life more. It's like, I'm not going to let certain aspects of life detract from the good. And we tend to do that. We let the negative outweigh the good, and in my mind, it's like, really, I should celebrate these things more, because life can be so hard, and sort of like in such a hard existence, there are these beautiful moments and these beautiful things. And so I more want to focus on those things. It's not that I want to deny these other, kind of things, like even on the last song, I talk a little bit about domestic violence, every bullet, every blow, every wanton fist, but it's still that's probably the only song that gets quite that heavy. But, the idea is that it all kind of falls on the shoulders of the one who has decided to take it on, and that's sort of a celebration of God, of Jesus, the one who took it on, or who takes it on, and sort of celebrating our place is the gratefulness for, like, I guess, like, I could be very grateful. We could be very ungrateful that our lives are so short, and that we have to live, but it would also be difficult to live with all that responsibility. If you had to feel, I guess here's the question is would you be willing to have all the power of God? Would you be willing to feel all the pain? Oof. And I think most of us have said, no thanks. So it's really more of a celebration of God that he is willing to hold those two things,
I feel like he invites us, though, to do that, right? Like, certainly, at least for Jonathan Puddle, I feel like he's always saying to me, If you would allow yourself to feel the pain of someone else,
Yeah.
you'll also see the beauty in someone else. So you
It's
can
true.
do it if you want.
I think that is the arc of the human life is sort of like we experience more joy as we allow ourselves to experience more pain.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
And I think when we're younger, you get, like you don't think about the day you get married. You don't think about that one of you one day is going to die before the other. You really don't think about it, but it's sort of entering into a loving relationship is signing a contract that you are willing to experience the pain that will ultimately result from loving another person. So all real love is an invitation or a willingness to experience the pain, and we don't like to think about that, but that's what it is. And so that's the arc of the human life. And it is beautiful. Sort of like, I'm willing to take both on. I'm willing to take on the responsibility of the pain that will ultimately result from this because the journey is going to be worth it. Yes. I don't know. I always think of Mitch Hedberg when I think about that idea. I
don't know Mitch Hedberg.
He's like, saw a man eating grapes. He said, no, you have to wait. And then he says, someone saw him drinking a whole bottle of wine, and they said, that's going to be terrible. He says, yes, but it's awesome right now. He says, but the beginning and the middle part are great.
That's life.
But that's kind of like life. Yes. It's going to be really hard. It's going to get really hard, but the beginning and the middle part are great. And I mean, good gosh, like I feel like no one wants to hear us talk about this or talk like this, but it's sort of second half of life conversations, and the beauty is that we get to walk through it, And so I guess back to your original question, though, it's not on the nose positive as much as it's like, I want to elevate the part of it that makes the hard part worth it is what I'm saying.
That's good. That's good. I mean, that's I guess the heart of a father, right? Like my eldest, as we're recording, will be turning 11 this Friday. And I'm kind of like,
all right, mine too. Mine's 11.
Awesome. I'm like, how the heck did I end up with an 11-year-old child? But I remember, Interstellar, that Christopher Nolan movie, and McConaughey's character is talking to the kids, and he's like, your moms used to say that we're just like the ghosts of our children's future. That it's like we're just here to create a frame for your story to live within. Like we're no longer the bright center of the universe as soon as we have children. I was like, man, I feel like I've been chewing over that for 11 years.
Yeah, I know. I love that movie. That movie hits me really hard. I think because I travel for a living, that scene when he's going away in the car.
Don't let me leave. Don't let me leave when he's in space screaming at her like.
Yeah. Well, when he's driving off in the truck, and I know that was tough. It's a great movie. I love that movie.
So you are going on tour. Speaking of leaving, you're going on tour.
Yes.
I feel like I have to claim something that you will have no idea about. But sure. I was listening to Josh Garrels like a long time ago, like Jacaranda era, and I was like, this guy's incredible. John Mark McMillan and Josh Garrels need to go on tour someday, and that would be the best thing ever. And then you did, and I was like, oh, it's like those moments when you feel like are you the only kid in the world on this shopping cart right now? Clearly, we were quantumly entangled at some level, John Mark, and that thought dropped in your head also.
Yeah.
But you guys never came to Toronto because you hate Canada, so that sucks.
No, it's not. It's not that we hate Canada at all. We actually love Canada, and I really need to do a Canadian tour. It's just every international stuff is challenging, sure. And even just taxes and figuring out how to cross the border with merch. And it's not that we refuse to do it at all. It's just very inconvenient.
Totally.
And it's inconvenient enough that it just hasn't quite happened. So we need to make it happen.
But you got a new tour coming up.
I know. I feel like you can't just tour Canada any time of year. either.
That's true. That's true. I do
It's
not
fairly
recommend
limited when you can actually
coming
drive
right
a tour bus across Canada. Yeah, but no, we do need to come to Canada. It's been a while. I mean, I've played in Toronto and I've played in Vancouver, but it's been years, unfortunately. So I feel bad about that. We have a lot of Canadian fans.
Yeah. And so on this next tour, you've got now. I'm from New Zealand, and I don't even know. My Kiwi friends pronounce his artist name Strawn.
Strawn. That's what we say.
Okay.
Strawn.
Okay. Cool. Well, he's awesome. I'm super pumped that that's happening.
Yeah, he's such a good dude. Yeah, so that's really exciting. He's a really good dude. I've been friends with him for a little while. I met him probably about a year ago, and then we did a festival in New Zealand. We got to hang out. We became friends, and I just love him, and I love his music, and so that's going to be a lot of fun. The Grey Havens are great too. I don't know them as well. I haven't met them, but they have cool music, and it's going to be really exciting to have them as well. Strawn, though, he and I are buddies, so I'm pumped about that for multiple reasons. We're going to have so much fun. Try and stay out of trouble. It's going to be good.
Actually, you did like a B-side, I think, on Silver Shores, like sitting beside a river in New Zealand or something like that.
I did.
I loved that. I mean, I was born and raised in New Zealand, and Silver Shores just like kills me every time. And when all of that confluence came together in one, I was just like, I'm pretty sure that the Holy Spirit allowed this to happen just for me.
I love New Zealand. New Zealand and Japan are my two favorite countries.
And you were just in Japan.
I was, yeah. They're also both the furthest away from me that you could possibly get. So
Peopled with Dreams comes out April 14th.
Valentine's
Day.
February 14th.
Sorry, yes, that's the word. February 14th.
Yes.
So excited. I'm pumped. These singles are awesome. Anything else you'd want to leave us with?
Wow. Nope. Just that I can't wait. Tour starts in April. And I know I've seen people are mad that we've only have 15 dates, but we are currently working on adding more dates. So, don't get sad yet. We need to work something out for Canada. We really do.
Yeah,
I think about it every now and then.
Every now and again. Yeah, come on up. You can stay at my house.
No.
Actually, you know what? I liked it. This is my only claim to fame about my house. But Tim Kingsbury, the guitarist from Arcade Fire, grew up in this house. My house.
Really?
I bought it off his parents. It's his childhood home. Amazing. It's possible that this was his bedroom. I don't know that. One day I'll be like, Tim, which room did you...
That's amazing. Are they still around? Like,
yeah, man.
Where do they live? I feel like they, at least some of them, moved to New Orleans, which is funny because it's so hot in New Orleans.
Well, there's like a Canadian music drain, like a brain drain to our wonderful neighbor to the south. Hey, John Mark, thank you so much. This was a real pleasure.
Yes, thank you. It was wonderful.
There you have it, my friends. That was honestly a bucket list item for me. I'll tell you how it happened because it just goes to demonstrate what an awesome guy John Mark is. He, in the build-up to this album, posted on Instagram a little while back, what are your dreams? And he asked everybody to let them know what their dreams were, and maybe by speaking them out, we could help each other get a little bit closer to reality. And so kind of tongue-in-cheek, I commented, my dream would be to interview you on my podcast. And he replied and said, let's do it. So how about that? What a genuinely wonderful man. And how about that as an encouragement for you? Go and live your dreams, live your life, live a full, abundant life. God offers it to you. You're allowed to enjoy it. So check the show notes for links to John Mark McMillan's website and all that kind of stuff, but make sure you jump on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you get your music and support that brand new album, Peopled with Dreams by John Mark McMillan. Thank you all. I'll be jumping back on the road tomorrow, but I have an amazing interview that'll be up next week, all about disabilities, and it is powerful. Oh, powerful. Real tears were shed. So, we'll see you next week, my friends.